This is going to be a quick guide on strength, if you can even call it that. I'm mostly just going to be talking about it and explaining why I like it. So let's start off with a pro towards strength. First thing, most weapons require a strength stat. So that means there's going to be no wasted stat point into strength, unlike resistance, which is solely a waste to level up. And another pro is that most of the best strength weapons do strike damage, like all great hammers and whatnot. And that's really good because strike damage is arguably one of the best damage types in the game, especially towards armored enemies, because most bosses have low defense towards it. So you'll be easily shredding enemies as long as you're walking around with like Smo's hammer or Great Club. And I'll switch over to cons now. I can mention a few more pros, but I don't want to make this video too long. So the first con is something I'm sure everybody's aware of. They're quite slow. So it takes a moment for them to wind up, which means you can get hit out of your attack. So you need to have a lot of poise. Poise is king in Dark Souls 1. Another con is that certain strength weapons, such as Smo's hammer or Demon King's Great Hammer, require strength stat above 40, like around 46 or 50, which is unfortunate because the soft cap is at 40. So any stat in after that feels like a wasted stat because of the minimal returns. So you could skirt this just a bit by two-handing it, but going around two-handing it is pretty shit. Let's be honest here. Maybe some people like two-handing their weapons, but I do not. Now, the last con I'll mention is that the weight. The weight for the weapons is obviously much higher than for dex weapons or mixed weapons. And that means you'll have to have high endurance or use the Havel's Ring. And that's not a wasted ring slot because Havel's Ring is very good, but leveling up your endurance that high might be a bit annoying for some people that want to do a mixed build and whatnot and keep their level low. In the end, it's all depending on what you want to do for your playstyle, but the weight is definitely off-putting for some people. Now I'll get off the pros and cons here and move over to the best strength weapons. Now this is basically solely bias, but some people might like other weapons and whatnot, but these are my personal favorites. This Zweihander is downright one of the best strength weapons ever. You can get it very early game in the skeleton graveyard at the biggest grave at the back, just by Firelink Shrine. And then next would be any Black Knight weapon, specifically the Halberd or the Great Axe are very good ones. The Great Sword also works, and so does the normal sword, but each and every one of them are great. None of them do strike damage, unfortunately. They're all pretty much slash and thrust, but each and every one of them are very good. The only problem is that the drop chance for each of the weapons is 20%, and the shield is 5%. But that means you could technically go multiple playthroughs without getting a single Black Knight weapon. This character that I'm playing on right now is New Game Plus 5, and they only have one Black Knight weapon, and I've killed so many of them. And on the other hand, I have a character in first New Game, and they have every single one of them. So it's really up to chance, up to RNG if you get these. So it's not best to bank a build off of them. And the Black Knight weapons have the con of having a high dex requirement. So if you don't plan on leveling up your dex much, then unfortunately you won't be able to use them. The next weapon is the Great Axe, which you can either get in the depths, buying it from the Crestfallen Merchant, or getting it as a rare drop from the Benelic Knights, or whatever their name is. It's a really solid weapon that can carry you through your entire playthrough with no problem whatsoever. And the same goes for the Large Club and Great Club weapons. Right now I'm using the Large Club and it's taken me through New Game Plus 5 with ease. However, this one is a rare drop from Infested Barbarians in Blighttown, a 2% chance to get it. However, the Great Club you can get in Blighttown on one of the islands as just a pickup. So you can get them very early game and you can level them up and it'll take you straight through the game with no problem whatsoever. In fact, you can use it into the next playthrough. This is only a plus 15 Large Club with absolutely no infusions whatsoever. The only thing holding me back when using it is my own skill. I absolutely suck at this game, it's been so long. But it takes with ease with most bosses and enemies, so it's a very solid weapon to use as well. And now the next one is the Dragon Tooth, which you can get in a hidden room in Orlando. Now the Dragon Tooth is pretty solid, though it does come with some drawbacks. It is super high in weight, it requires 40 strength, and it requires dragon scales to level up. So you'll be farming drakes in the Valley of Drakes like a bitch, I'll tell you that. But it does come with some benefits. It gives you plus 20 resistance to magic and fire. It has 999 durability, and it hits like a fucking truck. And it can be enchanted, so you'll be able to shred enemies even better. Now, the next one is Smo's Hammer. We all knew it was coming. It's a boss weapon that means you need to kill Smo, and then get any hammer or great hammer to plus 10, take it to the giant blacksmith, and transform it into Smo's Hammer. From there, you can then level it up. The biggest problem with this one is that it has a super high strength requirement, and that's just not fucking cool. It's 58. 58 strength, that's like 18 wasted stat points. It's sad. You can two-hand it and skirk this just a bit, but honestly, one-handing it is so much better. But let's move off the weapons now. Those are all of my personal favorites and ones I consider to be the best. I'm sure there might be some other ones I might have missed. I'm sure that's very likely. But moving on to shields. For a strength character, it's very nice to have a nice solid shield to block any and all damage. So a great shield would be the best. I personally prefer running Havel's shield or the tower shield because of how much damage it can block and the stability on it. Havel's shield is obviously the best. The only problem is the weight is absolutely fucking nutty, and you're going to be fat rolling if you don't have Havel's ring on, the ring of fap, and just an absolutely high amount of endurance. For shields, that's pretty much all I have to mention, since I'm sure most people won't even run them. Let's move on to the rings. Rings are very important. The ring of fap is more than just a solid choice, it's damn near necessary. It's 20% to your health, stamina, and carry weight, so using this only helps you out. And then next is Havel's ring, which is 50% to your carry weight. And obviously both of these rings together make for a perfect pair. But you can also pick one to change out for the Wolf's ring. Though beware, if you change out the Fap ring, you won't be able to put it on again because it will break. So the Wolf's ring increases your poise by 40 points. And this is obviously very good because the slow swing of heavy weapons obviously lets you get hit out of your attacks much easier. So having a lot of poise is damn near necessary for any strength build. And moving off from the rings, I'll mention very quickly about the embers. You're going to want to get the large ember from the depths and then the very large ember from the Orlando ruins pretty early game if you can. You could try to get them before on Orlando so you can shred on Orlando with ease, but getting the very large ember after on Orlando won't hurt you either. Now, onto stat distribution. You're going to want to get your strength up to 40 as quick as possible, and then you can level up endurance and vitality together. Obviously, you might need to sacrifice some vitality for dex depending on what weapon you're using, and that all depends on what level you want to stay at. If you're trying to stay at 120 to 125, you might need to sacrifice some strength and some vitality and two-hand your weapon, or you can sacrifice some endurance if you don't mind fat rolling. The problem with stat distribution is the person's playstyle and what they want to do. If you want to do PvP, sticking around 120 to 125 is the best choice you can make, because if you get too high, then you're not going to get as much PvP action, or you'll just get people completely cracked out. So sticking around 120 to 125 is the best for Dark Souls 1 PvP. My recommendation personally is strength at 40, dex to what you need, endurance about 35 to 40, and then you could sacrifice vitality as needed. And that might be an L tick because of how much damage you'll be taking, and you might die a bit quick for your liking, but you probably don't need that much vitality until New Game Plus anyway. And also, when you get to New Game Plus, stick around 120 to 125 is practically a suicide, so you should be leveling up by that time anyway. I think I rambled for a bit here. Basically, strength and dex to what you need for your weapon of choice, and then endurance and vitality as needed. Intellect and faith you can practically put aside, because if you're doing a pure strength build, you don't need it. If you're going to be doing a hybrid build, then sticking around 120 to 125 is useless. And I'm saying this with the thought that anybody watching this might be doing PvP. So, in the end, that's also a useless concern because PvP in this game is practically dead. Anyway, that's my guide. Maybe I should name it Shitty Guides with Sleepy Soul, because this is an L take, I think. But we'll see. I don't know, this is pretty much what I do for my strength builds. I pretty much stick to the same weapons, the same stats. You know, I only go above 120 if I'm in New Game Plus. And the character I'm on now is New Game Plus 5. They're at about 180 to 200. And they're kind of going through it with ease. So anyway, that's about it. I hope you found this helpful or somewhat enjoyable. Until next time.
Subscribe to Sleepy Soul.